So now, after seeing Avengers Infinity War, Thor definitely was one of the biggest standouts in that movie, and basically Marvel really reinvented the character of Thor and basically made him really cool again. And I really want to discuss this and kind of break this down and how they did this. How's it going, Webheads? My name is Ryan Walsh, and if you guys want all of the latest on the Marvel Cinematic Universe and Thor, definitely consider subscribing and turning on that bell notification so you guys don't miss a thing. Alrighty guys, so Thor really was the biggest standout in my opinion in Avengers Infinity War other than Thanos. Thor really kind of stole the show in that movie, and I really want to break down exactly how he stole the show in that movie and how he went from kind of a boring character to actually a really cool character and how Marvel actually did it. Well, if we really look at the first movie of Thor, that movie very much was just about kind of establishing the character in the MCU and really just establishing Asgard and how it can actually be within the same universe as, say, Iron Man and the Incredible Hulk. Really how Asgard and Thor could play a part in this and how they all could actually be within the same universe. This very much was just establishing the character and kind of being like, yeah, you can do Thor and not make him stupid. Like, you can do it and not make it really dumb. It kind of was just one of those movies where Marvel really showed that they could do the impossible with some of these characters. And I feel as though, really looking back on that movie, they did do that. They did exactly what they were supposed to. He wasn't the coolest character in that movie, but I thought he was actually done really well, and I thought they did a very good job with Thor. But obviously, like other characters like Loki definitely outshined Thor, I felt like, in his own movie. And Loki continues to do this in every single movie until, in my opinion, Thor Ragnarok. I thought that was really the first one where Loki didn't outshine Thor in the movie. But really looking at the Avengers movie really just was bringing about all these characters and having them all interconnect within the movies. And I personally thought when I actually was watching this movie that Thor actually was really cool in this movie. I thought he was actually awesome. And this is where Thor actually looked like he was a god. He was extremely powerful and he could take down Loki all by himself, and he was definitely one of the biggest powerhouses. He was taking on Iron Man and completely destroying Iron Man in that battle in the woods that they had. And I thought that these two movies, the first Thor and the Avengers, really just established exactly who Thor was and why he's actually really cool in the cinematic universe and why he's important. Obviously, he knows a lot more than the other Avengers about, say, Infinity Stones and other dimensions and aliens and all that. He actually knows about a lot more than they do. But I felt as though right after the first Avengers movie, this is where Thor actually fell off and he just wasn't that cool anymore. I feel like Marvel really just slacked with his character. Not really like they intentionally slacked with the character, but I felt like they kind of did, because if you look at, say, Thor the Dark World, which was the next one right after the Avengers, after coming out of that movie, I felt like I actually liked the movie. I thought it was pretty good. And honestly, I didn't think Thor was that great in the movie. I didn't, even coming out of it the first time, I didn't think Thor played the best he actually did. I felt like they didn't do anything with the character. After the first Avengers movie, I thought they did pretty well. They kind of did that first arc of Thor and kind of established the character. This is who he is. But after this movie, everybody really kind of wanted something different with Thor, and that's just something that we didn't get. Kind of like if you look at, say, what the Russo brothers did with the second Captain America movie after the Avengers, how they reinvented Captain America. That's something I think everybody really wanted to see with Thor, but nobody really got until years later. We didn't get that until recent. But with Thor the Dark World, it was just kind of a stick in the mud. And still to this day, as you guys probably know, if you guys have seen my rankings of all the MCU movies, it's my least favorite MCU movie, just because I thought Thor just really wasn't that great. He was very boring. They didn't do anything more with the character. Yes, we got a little bit more of Asgard in this movie, but they didn't do anything. He didn't really go anywhere else except for, say, the Dark World, and there was one other planet that he went to for a brief second. But mainly he was just on Earth with Jane Foster, and I felt as though that shouldn't have been the sequel. The sequel should have been something closer to, say, Ragnarok, where we actually got to see Thor actually go everywhere else except for Earth. That was the one place I didn't want to see Thor actually go, because that's where he's been the last couple movies. I want to see Thor in the other realms. I want to see Thor really exploring like he does in the comic books. I want to see that kind of stuff, and that's something that we just didn't get with Thor, and we got absolutely no character development. And the same thing with Age of Ultron, if you look at that movie as well. Nobody really gave Thor a personality other than just being kind of cocky, and he's just the powerhouse of the group. They didn't give the audience anything to care about for Thor. Thor just didn't really have anything going for him for those two movies, and I felt as though a lot of audiences just didn't really like Thor for a little bit. because he just didn't have anything new to offer, other than like say Captain America, where he was really rising in popularity and everybody wanted to see Captain America after the Winter Soldier because he was so cool in that movie, and that movie was done so well with Captain America and his character development. And same thing with Tony Stark. Everybody loves that character, Tony Stark. He is awesome. And even Hulk too. They gave Hulk a lot more character development within those 2 Avengers movies than Thor did within 4 movies, in my opinion. So I thought Thor was definitely the lacking character throughout 2013 all the way up into 2015 when we got to see Age of Ultron. But then of course, like when they were announcing Thor Ragnarok, I was excited for the idea of Thor Ragnarok, and they were saying that how they wanted to reinvent the character, but I still was skeptical going into that movie and really looking forward to the movie because I didn't think they were actually going to be able to accomplish reinventing Thor like they did with Captain America. I just didn't think it was going to happen. But then once I walked out of Ragnarok and once I saw that movie, I loved Thor once again. Thor was awesome. It was kind of like what we got to see for the first Thor movie. He was cool. He was doing awesome stuff. And this one, he was a lot more comical, and I love the way they were really portraying Thor on screen, and I thought they did an amazing job with that entire movie. And they really did a great job of just capturing exactly who Thor is and how he actually should act in these comic books. He's a god, he's a champion, and he should act like it. And I thought it was really well done, and he definitely kind of lost that whole serious part about him, which all the other movies kind of portrayed. And now he's just kind of this strong goof that's extremely powerful. He does have a lot of responsibility, but at the same time, he can still goof around and have a good time. And I thought that was a really great part about the character and how he actually developed through all of Thor Ragnarok and how they just reinvented the character. They did an incredible job of doing that. And then of course, moving into Infinity War, this is where they really did justice to the Thor character, where they actually made Thor the shining star of the movie, where no other movies really did except for say Ragnarok. I thought Ragnarok did a good job of really reinventing Thor, making him really cool again, but then Infinity War really put the god in God of Thunder, if you think about it. His journey throughout the entire movie, it kind of is a Thor story if you really think about it. If you look at, say, what happens at the beginning of the movie where half of his people die, half of the Asgardians die, his brother dies, one of his best friends, Heimdall, actually dies, and even at the end of Ragnarok, Odin dies, his father dies. So all this stuff has happened to Thor. He's a broken character, but if you look at what they did in Infinity War, where he's on his journey to go get the Stormbreaker hammer, and you're just seeing exactly he's still motivated to take this guy down. He has a revenge plan to take down Thanos and make him pay for what he actually did to his people, his brother, and his best friend. So he's on this entire revenge arc. I thought they did it perfectly, where he actually does get that Stormbreaker hammer, and he still has hope in defeating Thanos, and he knows he actually can do it. And I just love the way they entered him into that battle, and he was the one to save everybody. It wasn't like, say, Iron Man. Like, Iron Man always saves everybody, in my opinion. If you look at the first Avengers movie, he's going through the portal, nuking the aliens. That's something that he does. And then, like, say, even Captain America has some points where he's saving a lot of people, or even like in Civil War, where that's kind of like an Avengers movie if you think about it. It all revolves around Captain America, and Captain America definitely was the leader in Age of Ultron. But if you look at just Infinity War, where Thor comes down, and for the first time, a lot of people were really just cheering in the theater I was in. Everybody was so excited that Thor actually was on screen. He had a new hammer, he had the armor, he looked awesome. And this is where they actually made everybody really care about Thor and get excited for more Thor movies in the future, and just more Thor in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. In my opinion, this is where they made him not only the most powerful Avenger, but also the one that everybody really cares about. And this is where they really reinvented Thor and made him extremely cool again. And then of course, when he's taking that hammer and he just jumps up in the air, the lightning's coming off him, and he puts that hammer into the ground and completely takes out a bunch of Outriders. This is where they really made him a god. He's extremely powerful at this point. He's not only the strongest Avenger, he's not only the most powerful Avenger, but he is probably one of the most loved Avengers now just because of what they did with him in Infinity War. Of course, the Russo brothers do it again with another MCU character where they reinvent Thor just like they did Captain America and the Winter Soldier, and I just love what they did with him, and I thought he was probably the best part of the movie. And I think most people coming out of Infinity War would have to agree with me because they just did such a good job with that character. But of course, guys, if you like this video and you guys want more videos on Thor and the MCU, definitely check out the 2 videos below me and consider subscribing right over here for all of the latest on the MCU and Thor going forward. But guys, thank you very much for watching. I really do appreciate it. Bye-bye.